Welcome to the Life Self-Mastery Podcast, where we bring in entrepreneurs who have created online businesses and improved their lifestyles. Here's your host, Rohit Malhotra.
Hi everyone, I'm Rohit from Life Self-Mastery, and today I'm excited to have Mike T. Brown, who's a former NFL player turned self-taught coder and a Silicon Valley startup founder. Mike is the founder of Win-Win, which has raised more than $1 million funding from Sandal Angels, Duke University, Backstage Capital, Blackstar Fund, and a few other pro athletes, and is a graduate of 500 startups. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, Rohit. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So you were a professional NFL player. How did you get into NFL?
You said what?
You were a professional NFL player. How did you get into football and NFL?
Oh, well, I mean, from an early age, I started playing, in here in the States, they call it Little League, where basically, around the age of 7 or 8, started playing football. My mom was, always giving me an opportunity to go out and burn off some energy and run around, and found out that I had some natural talent there. So, went through the ranks of high school where I did very well, earned a full athletic scholarship to Duke University, and went on to play there where I was an All-American, did really well. And then that's, went through the combine and the different workout sessions that they kind of use to audition, if you will. And so I signed with the Indianapolis Colts, and that was where I kind of realized that dream of making it to that level and playing. And so it was a great experience, and was playing professionally about 3 years, and then that's when I kind of made this unique transition into tech.
Got it. And so you were a linebacker over there. For people who don't follow football, what does a linebacker do?
Oh, all right, yeah. So so I was a middle linebacker, always have been, and they're kind of like the quarterback of the defense. So, and if you don't know what the quarterback is, well, we're the ones who kind of run the show. So we're like the on-field coach. We have to know where everybody on the defense lines up, what everybody's job is. I usually have to call the plays for the defense to help to stop the offense from scoring a touchdown. So basically do a lot of tackling, and did quite a bit of that in my career, but it's a lot more than the tackling. You really have to have the mental capacity and ability to make changes on the go, communicate effectively. There's a lot that goes in the role of being a linebacker. And I was typically the captain on the team as well, so a lot of leadership qualities that I had to really refine and develop.
Got it. And why tech? Why not get into sports management or something?
Yeah, I wasn't, that was something that kind of came up, when I was at Duke. I was on the law school track, and for a second I thought about, sports and entertainment law to kind of stay within that lane. But, I was always told people that I just so happen to know how to tackle people. So sports wasn't something that, I would let define me in whole. Certainly it was a big part of who I am, but I was a lot more interested in other things. And so once I was finished playing, I had no desire to become a coach or a sports, trainer, or even in the management side. I had taken a completely different route because when I found out about tech, I didn't know what tech or Silicon Valley was until 2013. But when I got exposed to it, I went through a program, and that was kind of the light bulb that went off in my head around being able to build and create. It wasn't necessarily about sports. It was just the ability to create something in the world. And so I wanted to do that. And as I got deeper into tech and started to, identify different pain points and problems, it just so happened to be at the intersection of my passions, which was sports, philanthropy, and now technology. So it kind of happened, in terms of the sports tech intersection, not necessarily accidentally, but it wasn't the intention as I got into tech. But tech in general just was very attractive to me, from the ability to create and bring things into the world.
Got it. And so, what made you start Win-Win? You leveraging sports gaming to transform charitable gaming industry. But what was the real spark that made you start and focus on Win-Win?
Yeah, well, for most innovation and startups, right, it usually stems from a pain point that the founder or the founding team has experienced themselves. And for me, one of the things that I had kind of looked back on and was recognizing still being a problem, right? I was as a professional athlete, I ran a nonprofit organization, and always kind of felt the pain points of trying to raise money for it and not having enough time to dedicate to it as much as I would have really wanted to, because it's passionate. It's a place of passion for me. And so when I was looking at that situation, and then I looked at charitable giving just in general, right, when it comes from a donor standpoint or perspective, there was nothing that really kind of stood out as really cool, right, or motivating people to give more consistently. But what I did see was a lot of people, gaming, right, like fantasy sports,
Right.
a lot of fanfare around sports. And I just saw, through my unique experiences, a bridge that could be had, that would bridge this gap between the fans, the athletes, and the charities in a way that, I didn't see in the marketplace at that point. And my unique advantage was, being able to access current professional athletes in the NFL and talk to them about the idea, that I ended up having at that moment, and was able to develop it out. And so Win-Win came, simply because, I looked at my own, experiences and past as trying to run a charity, because I've always been very, philanthropic. But when there's no easy way to do it, especially as a very busy professional athlete, you either not do it, you end up not doing it at all, or doing it very poorly. And so I started to develop out Win-Win as a way to help players, still represent and build awareness and funding for the things that they truly love, while giving the fans something that they all desire, these experiences that money can't buy, all while giving them the feel good of supporting an impactful cause as well.
Got it. And I was interested to know what was your acquisition challenge to get more people on the platform.
The acquisition challenge?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how did you get your first 1,000 or first 10,000 users?
Well, so we actually had never really been focused on users initially. So right now we have been focused on kind of building out the player network. So our user acquisition strategy is actually pretty unique and advantageous based on what we're doing. We're able to leverage the reach of our professional athletes. So today, we have about 150 or 60 professional athletes across the NFL and NBA that are Win-Win partners. And so as we activate any of their tournaments, right, the campaigns that they're using, this gamified giving model to raise money for the charity, they're promoting that out to their fan base. And then those fans are coming to our actual platform, creating an account, engaging in the campaign, making a donation. And so our acquisition efforts are really focused on acquiring, our big time partners, professional athletes, soon to be, entertainers, artists, influencers, and then getting those folks on board who will then drive their audience to Win-Win. And then we had to make sure that the Win-Win platform, our conversion funnel, was very tight. So that was really what we were focused on the last couple of years in our beta, was our conversion funnel. From top of the funnel, clicking the link in the bio, all the way down to the bottom, making that donation transaction. And so we're at a phenomenal place there, but that was what we were focused on, and I think it's a good model to have.
Got it. And what sort of sports or what sort of athletes drive the most donations on your platform?
So we've been working with NFL predominantly through the beta testing phase. We did some NBA as well. It actually varies a little bit just based on kind of the popularity of the player, obviously, And then also even the experience. We had some pretty epic experiences. You know, one of the players in the NFL offered up a private jet ride with him to the top 3 winners in his tournament, where they went to a huge college football game, LSU versus Alabama, on a Saturday night in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So, you know, that drove a lot of interest and engagement and donation that we were really happy about. And so, you know, it varies. And that's the great thing about the platform, is that it's all very unique and custom to the player and their brand. And so every fan who is a fan of that particular player, right, they'll have a unique kind of engagement and experience, even though, you know, it's very similar campaigns and tournaments from a structure standpoint. The details of each are very, very unique. And so it drives a lot of different levels of interest and engagement.
Got it. And, you know, I was wondering, what is the revenue model? How do you make money from the platform?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, we monetize on both sides of the platform. Pretty straightforward. On one side, we take a percentage of every transaction that comes through the platform. So when a user comes to make their donation, Win-Win ends up retaining a portion of that, and then we pass the rest on to the charity.
Okay.
And then on the other side, we're charging brands who are looking to sponsor these tournaments. So you could think about it like, you know, the Steph Curry Win-Win tournament powered by Pepsi, just as an example.
Right.
You know, Pepsi is able to, you know, reach his audience through the social media promotion. So every time Steph promotes on social media that he's, you know, running a campaign or a Win-Win tournament, then Pepsi's mentioned, you know, their logo is somewhere, all of that. And then even on the Win-Win platform, we have branded assets, you know, like the Pepsi leaderboard. So there's a lot of high engagement and traffic that the brands are able to get out of it. And so for that value, obviously, as you can imagine, we are monetizing on their ability to integrate and sponsor the tournament.
Got it. And, you know, if people use your platform, do they get tax deductions, you know, 100% tax deductions on whatever they contribute?
Yeah, no, it's correct. They actually get 100% tax deduction, you know, at least to the fullest extent of the law based on, you know, their own tax structure. We're no tax experts, so we always, you know, suggest that people reach out to their tax advisors to get all the nitty gritty. But the way that our model works, you know, when you donate on the platform, the money actually is processed by a separate entity, which is the Win-Win Foundation. So we have our own 501c3 nonprofit, and that's actually what's processing every donation, which then allows for them to have the fullest deduction on that, because it's 100% of the money is going to a nonprofit versus, you know, a different for-profit entity. And so once the money goes to the Win-Win Foundation, then Win-Win Corporate is paid its percentage out of the foundation's administrative overhead. And then the remaining money goes out to the player's nonprofit. So it's a grant from one foundation to the next. But for the users, because their money is going directly to the Win-Win Foundation initially, they get the tax ID number, tax receipt, documents, all of that automatically generated and sent to them. So gives them that benefit, especially as you're engaging with the Win-Win platform over the course of a year or a season. You know, you may end up giving a lot of money to these charities, which is great. And so being able to have the full tax benefit of that, we thought was important.
Interesting. Right. So, you know, you've also been part of 500 startups, and you've been backed by VCs from Sandal Angels and Backstage Capital, Blackstock Fund. So, you know, it was it difficult for you to raise funding for a platform which you know, which is different from other, you know, marketplaces, and you know, what is the kind of returns or exit that, you know, people can look for going forward?
Yeah, I mean, you know, all of our investors to date, you know, the ones you just mentioned are, you know, they're firm believers in the fact that Win-Win can and will be the future of philanthropy and fundraising.
Okay.
because again, we're taking a much more unique approach in terms of how the donors are engaging, and because we're leveraging the athletes, right, and providing a large amount of value, in a way that gets them to engage and buy in. I mean, so much so that we have actual partners that have now become investors, right, after running campaigns and being involved. And we just thought that was it was a huge kind of nod to the value that we create. And so because of that, we foresee the platform scaling pretty quickly across all sports and even across other verticals. Like I mentioned, entertainers, artists, influencers, the professional teams themselves, even universities, right? So my alma mater, Duke University, just as an example, could host a March Madness win-win bracket challenge and promote it out to all alumni. And then the alumni, when they join and donate, that money goes to the Duke University Annual Fund, which they're always trying to raise money for. And now they're competing to win, courtside seats at a Duke UNC game or dinner with Coach K. And so as we scale into these other verticals, we believe that we'll become very attractive to a variety of different potential acquisition partners across different industries, right? Because we're in gaming, driving high engagement, we're in giving, growing that industry with our unique model of gamified giving. We're in media and brand. And even, we think will be very attractive to even some of the larger tech companies from, Amazon to Google or even Facebook, as I know that they've been, diving much deeper into kind of giving and making it a little easier for you to support charity, but certainly not in the way that we are. So, at the end of the day, our goal is to, scale win-win up to be a global, entity that is helping entities of influence mobilize global audiences. And I think as we drive hard towards that goal over the next few years, an acquisition is certainly something that we're aiming to get to. But it's obviously finding the right acquisition partner that sees the value in what we're doing, that will extend that mission and give us further resources to continue. But I think that's one of the ways that we foresee being able to return capital, to our investors is through an acquisition.
Got it. So Mike, you are currently using a crowdfunding platform called Republic to raise funds. So why go through the crowdfunding platform? Can you talk about your Republic campaign as well?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm excited about being able to offer everyday individuals, the ability to invest and earn equity in win-win. As you mentioned, we actually raised about $1.5 million, from a good collection of investors. But, these folks are the traditional VCs or some of the angels, are, the accredited investors. And, the majority of the United States and even the world are not what they call accredited investors. So for anybody who doesn't know, an accredited investor is somebody who makes $250,000 a year or more for the last 3 years or has $1 million in liquid assets. And so at least in America, that's only about 8 or 9% of people. And that means everybody else has no opportunity to invest in an early stage company. They have to wait until it's a publicly traded company on the stock market. And so by being able to now take money from or investments from, non-accredited investors, it does a few things, which I love. For one, it gives us as a company more capital, right? And which is always important in these early stages. And as a minority founder, I'm African American, and there's typically, statistically, you'll see that there's just a much harder path to fundraising for us. And so having an alternative way to raise money outside of the traditional sources is always an advantage, for us to be able to raise the capital that we need to continue on. So that's from the company side, but obviously on the investor side, being able to, get that equity for as little as, in our campaign, the minimum is $250. and you're getting equity. And I always try to, explain or remind people that this is not a, regular crowdfunding platform like an Indiegogo or Kickstarter where it's just a donation. You're actually getting, equity, a form of equity, that we're looking to return capital the same way we want to return capital and investment to, Sandhill Angels or Black Star Fund. We want to be able to enable everyday people to capture that same upside. So, that's why we really did the equity crowdfunding campaign, and excited. We have about 30 days left as of today. And it's pretty exciting. We got some great momentum over the last few days, and looking to, kind of raise the awareness and give more people an opportunity, because it's essentially us opening up the doors of the win-win ship and saying, hey, everybody can come in, for as little as $250 and, join us on this journey and this ride. And most importantly, reap the benefits of that upside when we go get acquired, right? Which is the goal. Then, I would love for people in my community, my family, my friends, who all became investors, yourself included, Rohit,
Yes.
being able to, get the return on that upside. So it's just very exciting. I encourage anybody that's listening to go check it out. It's at www.republic.co/win-win. And, you'll be able to learn all about the company, the traction to date, our roadmap ahead, and some of the great partners that we have. And we got a lot of investors that have left some great comments as to why they invested. And it just confirms and validates, my reason for doing this equity crowdfund, as I'm seeing people who had never invested before now being proud about being an investor in a fast growing tech company. So that's why we did Republic.
No, absolutely. What made me interested was great VCs, angels backing company, and a very innovative way of giving back to the society. So we'll definitely put the link for Republic on the show notes. So you're trying to raise funds. So what is the money to be used for, and are you expanding into other sports other than NFL?
Yeah, definitely. So this initial capital right now, so we used our first, kind of fundraise that we did in 2016, really focused on product, product development, that conversion funnel that I mentioned. So we were, running campaigns, iterating the platform. And so now that we've reached what we feel is product market fit, now we're looking to scale things up a bit. So we're starting, we're doing it pretty thoughtfully and effectively in the sense that this capital that we're raising right now will go directly to, growing our team and marketing kind of dollars, right? Because we hadn't unlocked any of our marketing machine powers, if you will. Right. With all of our past campaigns, they've all been very organic. So one of the things we're really excited about is how we take the phenomenal conversion rates that we're seeing on the organic campaigns and amplifying that even further and faster through, targeted advertising campaigns, PR, because there's a lot of great things that can be talked about and displayed, when it comes to these impactful charities that are, benefiting the athletes and the fan experiences. So the money's going to team and to marketing as we look to scale up the platform. And then we'll go into 2020 where we'll now be in the NBA, MLB, which is Major League Baseball here in the States, and then back into NFL. And that's where you'll start to see many more tournaments, many more campaigns, athletes, entertainers. So we're starting to scale up, and that will put us in a position to raise our next subsequent round, which we're focused on growth capital.
Got it. And I want to know who else is in your team, or are you the lone founder in the company?
Yeah, I'm a solo founder. Started this venture on my own back in 2016, and just had a goal to build something of impact. And having a co-founder is a really big decision and commitment. And there was some people that kind of were in the running for that, and was working with some folks very early on, for a short period of time, but. At the end of the day, there were just certain things that, that I would have needed and required in a true co-founder. So, not everybody was up to par on that. And so I went at it on my own, and I'm happy that I did. And now building out a phenomenal team around me that can help us to continue driving this mission. And as I mentioned, returning great value to everybody involved.
Awesome, great. So I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
Favorite business book? So I got two, actually. One I would say is more about life, and one is more about startups and kind of business per se. But I'm a big fan of Ben Horowitz and his book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. I think it's kind of required reading for any founder looking to start a company, or just anybody interested in tech in Silicon Valley and getting an idea and understanding of kind of how it works, right? Because as the title states, it talks a lot about the hard things that are involved in building something that has never existed in the world. And I just thought it was really refreshing as I was first getting into tech, and just love kind of how Ben put that together. So that's one. But one that I'm also a big fan of is more, kind of life/business. I think there's a lot of things that are important when it comes to the overlap and connection between life and business. But it's a book called Give and Take by Adam Grant. Yeah. And what it talks about is kind of this the difference, right? Where how you can be successful being a giver versus just a taker. And there's a lot, and what that means is, you look to provide value to others, right? Giver versus, being somebody who's only looking to extract value. And, you end up, and there's some people that can get ahead by doing that and not having any concern for others. But when this book really breaks down, like real historical examples around, how givers ultimately, will be at the top of that kind of mountain, if you will. So that was something I recently read, and it's kind of changed or added perspective and refinement to even how I look at my own giving and why giving even matters to me. So those are the two that I love and would strongly recommend.
Yeah, both of these books are very high quality books. Hard Things About Hard Things is one of the most recommended book on the podcast. If you could go back in time when you started, when what is the one thing you would have focused on, or anything you would have done differently?
I'm not one that lives with regrets. I certainly believe that everything happens and does not happen for a reason. And our journey, albeit has been hard, it has also been very, I think, necessary to get us to where we are today. We learned some tough lessons, some expensive lessons, in those earlier days as we're trying to figure things out. But one thing, if I had to point it out, I would probably say, hiring. I knew that going in, hiring was a big deal, right? Just because you're building something, you usually don't have a lot of money, and so there's an element of recruiting, that you gotta get people excited about your idea on the back of a napkin. But then more importantly, from our side, we needed to be a bit more diligent in kind of the review process and just having a process for hiring at all, even in the earliest days, I think is important versus, kind of just going off your gut. So, I know that was one of the things that kind of, we lost some time and money on with some poor hiring decisions early on. Now, I'm happy to report that we had very quickly, course corrected, and our investors were happy about that. But, early on going in, knowing first that everything takes twice as long and costs twice as much, knowing that and having focused on that, hiring decisions and processes in the very beginning may have differed. But like I said, we had to go through that. And now as we're hiring now and bringing more people on, we're going at it in a much more thoughtful and diligent way. And, we wouldn't have been able to have that insight had it not been for, the early lessons that we had to learn. So that's where I would probably focus if I could go back, which we know we can.
Got it. And do you have any favorite online tools? Example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom?
Yeah, I mean, I love all of the the usual suspects. I think two that people may not know about, but I'm a huge fan of and use nearly every day. There's two. One of them is called Rebump, and people can, and I'm not getting paid to say this, I probably should, but rebump.cc. And what they do is they allow you to kind of do an automatic follow-up via email and like in a certain sequence, but in a way that it has whatever the custom messages are. So you could set up a sequence. If I'm following up with a VC, right, I can create the messages that are pretty generic, right? Or you can even tag their names and it'll automatically fill it in. But, if it's for a VC versus one of our NFL partners, my follow-ups will be a little different. The cadence, right, will be a little different. And so you can set all that up automatically and it ties in Google, and then you just click it and then it'll do the automatic follow-ups, however many days out that you set it, if you don't hear back from them. So it's helped recover many emails because I get so many and have to send so many, I tend to forget which ones to follow up with. So that's a good one. And then the last one I'll say is Fileboard. It's FILEBAORD.com. And, it's really, it's kind of a sales tool, but we use it predominantly for being able to present, the win-win pitch deck or partner deck or whatever. And all they have to do, they don't have to download anything. They just go to the website, that you give them, and then they're able to watch and follow along. So those are the two that I enjoy using the most, and quite frankly surprised that more people don't know about them, but maybe they will now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just looking at Fireboard and I didn't know about this tool. I'll put that in the show notes. So Mike, what is the best way for people to reach out to you, and how can they contribute on the Republic campaign?
Yeah, so the first place to go, I think, is to republic.co /win-win. So that's where, again, they can learn so much more about the company. We're posting updates on Republic. So, there's company updates that go out and get emailed to everybody who invested. And even if you haven't invested or you want a little more time, although there's not much, you can simply follow the company on Republic and then get updates as things happen. And then if you want to find or reach me, I'm on LinkedIn under Mike Tawili Brown, but probably the easiest would be to go either to Instagram, which is _Mike T Brown, or you could just go to MikeTBrown.com, and that's where you'll find, all the links to me, email, everything. So encourage folks to do that.
All right, Mike, thank you very much for coming onto this show, and best of luck for your campaign.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you joining as an investor and having me on the show.
Thanks for listening to the Life Self-Mastery podcast, where we teach you how to start and grow your online business. For more information, visit Rohit's blog at www.lifeselfmastery.com.